farming, Middle East, Eastern Europe, and Western Europe, and a bit in Australia. So, yep, that's me.
Okay, and Darren.
Hello, Darren White. I'm the export manager for JT Johnson's. We're a exporter based in South Australia, but with facilities in Victoria and Western Australia.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Now we're just going to go through and actually just touch on what the priorities are in the overall overarching Export Fodder RD&E plan, and then we'll talk a little bit more detail about the priorities in this open call, and I'll just briefly touch on those and then open up questions to everyone online. And I really recommend or request that our panel members jump in for any questions. So our priorities are the production of high quality export fodder, continued access to export markets, supporting innovation across the supply chain, and increased adoption of R&D outputs by industry. So at that broad level, is there anyone that has any questions across those 4 priorities? No? Excellent. Stacey, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so I'm just wondering how to do this really. Does anyone online, maybe if you can just put your hand up, do you have any questions around the first one, which is the Export Fodder Industry Engagement and Extension Project? Is there any hands up at all? Yes. Okay, Laura, Jade, what's your question on this particular one?
I had a few questions, so please cut me off if it's going too long. But I wanted to know, are you looking for expressions of interest for preliminary proposals that address all of these points, or could we kind of specialise in some of them?
Either or, Laura. So if there is part of it that you are experts in, but other parts that you think that either A, you can't do, or others could do better or differently, then just put in whatever. So if it's a subset of it, just be really clear about what it is, which components that you are delivering on.
Fantastic. And when the second one is the second project, you might discuss that in a minute. Sorry. And so under this extension project, the annual calendar, what does that mean? Is that an annual calendar of communications activities, or?
That was discussed at our last meeting, but I'm just wondering, I'm probably not the best person to answer that. Would one of the panel like to unmute and talk about that annual calendar? No. Look, what I'll do is when Annie joins us, which will be a few minutes, we'll
Ellen, I am here.
Excellent, Annie. Excellent. Can you answer that question?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I've just been in Canberra doing a leadership course, so walking down the street at the moment. But so around the annual calendar, the idea is to formulate a calendar that details out the events and opportunities that are available for people in the export fodder industry.
Yeah. Great.
Is there any other questions on that, Laura?
Has there been background research about what has been done previously, what's worked and what hasn't?
Back to you, Annie, on that one.
Thank you. Look, I'm not aware of any background research that has happened. We've had a lot of discussions within our panel. So if any of our panel members want to jump in and comment on what is and isn't effective, that would be great. But no sort of published background research.
Great.
James, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thanks, Ellen. Look, just to try and further provide some context on that from my perspective, and other panel members may wish to provide a view as well. So in terms of what works and what doesn't work, Suffice to say, in terms of my experience, there's no silver bullet on this.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not one element or channel of communication
Yep.
as it relates to engaging with our range of stakeholders, because there's many throughout the supply chain.
Yeah.
There's not one channel that necessarily is the silver bullet, right? So there needs to be potentially a mixture of engagement activities to get cut throughout all participants within that supply chain. That said, there's certainly, we're starting to see, and the panel has discussed, more electronic means where information can easily be updated, so to make information more recent. Because at the end of the day, we're always after cutting edge innovation as relates to what we're extending to industry. So from that perspective, the more electronic to a certain extent, such communication and extension materials can be the better.
Makes sense.
So from my perspective, it's all about recency and making sure that new innovation, new science is being communicated to the relevant participants along that supply chain. I hope that helps.
That does help. That's great. Thank you. And do we have any breakdown of that supply chain? Like I read that there were an estimated number of 1,500 to 2,000 people growing for export, fodder for export. I have my assumptions about these guys, but do we have any kind of background information about them?
Is there anything that you're aware of? We've done some high level, internally, some high level work across different industries, but with quite small sets of people. But I wouldn't say that's definitive at all.
Okay.
Look, I think probably realistically, looking at the way, fodder growers, they're fodder growers, but, looking at broad scale agriculture growers and looking at what GRDC does and how they engage and interact is probably not dissimilar.
Yeah,
I see,
fantastic.
Ben, you have went off mute. Did you want to add something?
No, sorry.
No, okay.
Because like I imagine you all have to be really proficient, innovative, like you need to be great operators to be doing this well. So it'll be, I just wondered if there had been some segmentation done, but excellent. It'll be exciting to learn more.
Yeah, no, there hasn't been that sort of segmentation done across that number of growers. There's been some small surveys done. Oh, James, over to you.
Yeah, look, thanks, Ellen. And I think I've interpreted the question correctly, but from my perspective, and again, other panel members can add if they so wish, is along that supply chain, you've certainly got different target groups. So certainly growers or producers would be one. The growers of fodder themselves, classically known as farmers. Another one would be the exporters, the export companies. Another one would be the consultants who already have contacts and a suite of clients, principally growers or farmers.
Do you mean is that like agronomists?
That's correct. Yeah. So they'd sort of be the targets of principal extension outcomes. But yeah, look, there might be some other areas along the supply chain, but they'd be the principal three.
And so I have one more question. Sorry to take up so much time.
No, thanks, Laura.
You mentioned
questions.
I was reading that do most of the producers that you're hoping to target with this project, do they concentrate on producing fodder for export, or are they doing a mixture of things?
Ellen, may I follow in from James's comments before?
Yes, thank you, Andrew.
Laura, following on from what James talked about, the producers or the growers, and I think in specificity to your last question, within the growers, there is a whole range of farmers. There are people who grow export fodder hay, as their primary business
Mm-hmm.
and primary business activity. There are some farmers who grow it as a secondary or third
Yep.
level activity, but they're doing it every year.
Yep.
And then there are what I call the emergency rescue people who are growing hay in circumstances where they've had a frost or a drought or something like that,
Yep.
and making the hay available. And some people in the industry call these people respectively, fodder firsts, seconds, thirds, and the off grades.
Okay.
And I think within that, there's plenty of opportunity to target your communication and extension activity to that whole range of people, understanding that there is a really big population and it's very diverse.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. It's just remarkable how quickly it's grown.
It is. I think it's very much a growth industry, and see it very much as a sunrise industry rather than a sunset.
Nice.
Even though it's probably one of the oldest forms of agriculture in making dead grass into compact bales. The technology that's involved in all aspects of the supply chain is really exciting, and I think we're at the cusp of some exciting times in front of us.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Now, Matt Wordsworth, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks everybody as well for putting on the webinar today. I'm interested also in the priority 4 in the element 1. When it says social media X, does that mean you only want things to go out on that channel, or you have Instagram and other social media channels at your disposal?
As far as we across all social media, so we would go across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Right.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Ellen, the reason that X was specifically called out there was when we were having this discussion with our panel, it was agreed that X would probably be the most engaged forum across our stakeholders.
Okay, that's good to know. And in terms of the field day, is there a particular location that you would prefer or think would work best?
I might let one of our panel members jump in there and suggest a locality if they...
And we're across about 4 states, so there could be a few arguments there.
Yes, and I'm a Victorian, Matt, so I'm going to vouch that it should be in Victoria. We're the premier state and make everything happen for the rest of the nation. But in all seriousness, I think your question is a really good question, because we are a national industry. And whilst I talk about the fodder first, seconds and thirds and the off grades, we also have a climate that goes from high rainfall to low rainfall. And production reflecting those different rainfalls. We are a rainfall fed largely cropping production system. So finding the right location, I think, would be both a challenge and a critical opportunity for us going forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. Would it be something that you guys would consider working in with an AFIA type of event or something like that would be synergistic to bring everyone together?
I think the platform is open, and it's part of this open call process is to see what ideas we might be able to tease out from the industry. But I don't think there's any rules for what we would say yes to or what we would say no to, Matt.
And Paula is actually on the webinar, so she might have something to say about that. Paula from AFIA, for those who don't know.
Hey, Paula, I was just at the national conference in COF, so hello. It was a great event.
Are you there, Paula?
Now I'm here. Can you hear me?
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for that. Thank you, Matt, for your feedback. I don't have anything to add other than to say, AFIA would welcome working with others, but probably just worth noting also we're working through our 2025, 2026 calendar at the moment. So it in itself is a bit of a work in progress.
Thank you very much, Paula. Now, was there any other questions on that number 1 there? No. What about under number 2, the design, develop and deliver a digital platform to update and renew the producing quality oat hay guide and a best practice resource for growers, including the development of YouTube videos?
I had one question.
Yes,
Oh, sorry,
Lauren?
I should put my hand. Are you envisaging it like a web portal, a website, or more like an app? Did you had any ideas?
Okay. I'm going to let Annie answer that one.
Yeah, thanks, Ellen. Look, as Andrew sort of stated on another point, we put this one out here to see what people could bring back to us, what the ideas were, what the proposals were. I think either an app or a web platform would work. We had sort of discussed a web platform within the panel. But again, if you have a proposal for us that shows an app could also be a possibility, then it would be great to see.
Excellent.
Fantastic, thank you.
Now, Gavin, you have a question?
Oh, yes, thank you, Ellen. Would you prefer it like homed at the end of the day on the integrated into AgriFutures platform?
I'm going to hand that answer back to Annie because there is, oh, actually, I'm happy to answer it. We would prefer it to be, but at the moment, our platform isn't particularly capable of doing anything else apart from anything more advanced than, brochureware, basically. But there is simultaneously at the moment, there is work being done to try and upgrade our website so that it can take apps.
Yeah, so if a successful applicant integrated it in with your platform, that would be useful.
Yes. Annie, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, look, as Ellen said, our platform at the moment is mostly that brochureware, our final reports, that type of thing. We are working on updates. So yeah, we would probably work with the project team on that, just depending on what the proposal looks like. And obviously we'd work very closely to get that branding structure right as well.
Thank you both.
Okay. So no more questions on number 2 there? Or any more questions, I should say? Sounds like I'm shutting everyone down. No worries. Stacey, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, the third one is conducting a desktop review and analysis of oat and hay uses in export markets and looking at things like what are the key drivers of decisions, why buyers choose oat and hay, the economic and nutritional value, and demonstrated linkages with the US. Is there any questions at all from on this particular one? Just pop up your hand. No questions at all? Oh, Scott.
Hello,
Scott.
can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah, I had a sort of a periphery question, I guess. We're wondering whether we can submit a proposal that's outside of the open call a little bit that addresses priority 2.1 rather than these ones specifically. So addressing the improve the information available to exporters and producers to understand the requirements for major export markets in relation to chemical use and biosecurity.
I'll put that. Annie, are you able to take that one on?
Yeah, I absolutely can. Obviously, so we put out the terms of reference for the open call based on what those priorities areas are discussed with industry and the panel at the moment. If there is a proposal that comes through that is outside of those priority areas, it'll be assessed on face value and discussed within the panel. And as you said, it sounds as though your proposal does align with our strategic 5-year plan. So we will be looking at projects that align with the priority areas that are listed in the terms of reference for the open call. But again, if you can show alignment with our 5-year plan, it will be assessed on face value by the panel.
Okay, thank you for that.
Ellen, if I may make a comment.
You most certainly can, Andrew, at all times.
What we're really looking for around priority 2 is in our export markets, our key competitors supply alfalfa or lucerne and Timothy grass. And we're really looking to try and understand and enhance the customer value around Australian oat and hay as opposed to our exporter competitor products. And that's really what priority 2, dot point 3 and dot point 4 are really about. I hope that might help the people listening in on the webinar.
Thank you, Andrew. Now, on number 4, the investigation on stem characteristics of oats, is there any additional questions at all there? No? Okay, can we go to the next slide, please, Stacey? Okay, and then under priority 3, number 5, the moisture measurement innovation of high density bales and roadmap of moisture loss in bales. Is there any questions, or does any of our panel members like to give a little bit more clarity on that particular one?
Well, if I may, Ellen, the driver behind this is that our bales across the supply chain are increasing in density and weight, and we're having issues with being able to put moisture probes into the bales. So we're looking for innovative ways to be able to measure the mass or the moisture in hay in truckloads. And ideally to be able to understand a bit more about the moisture loss in the bales themselves.
Thank you very much. And there's no particular questions about that. Does anyone require any clarification? No? Okay. And then priority 1, number 6, management practices to maximise gross margin for export hay grow. Oh, actually, Gustavo,
Yes.
what's your question?
Well, first off, thank you very much for organizing this call, right? It's very instructive. I work at UWA and I was interested in priority 3, item 5.
Yes.
So the main issue here is that because the bale is high density, you cannot have access to, let's say, the core of the bale. Is that it?
That's correct, yes. It's much more difficult to get a probe into the core of the bale, yes.
And there's no interest in having sensors because there are a few sensors already that they work that they measure the moisture during the baling process. That would not be covered in this item, would it? It's just
Could be. So you're thinking something along the microwaves or ultrasound or something like that.
Correct. But during the baling phase, right? Not when you're loading the bales on trucks.
It's more looking at it for when it's on the truck going into the
Okay.
export hay processing facility.
Okay. Thank you very much.
But being an open call, we're open to all ideas.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Ben, Marcus, or Darren, do you have anything else to add to that question from Gustav? No? Okay. Joanna Costello, what's your question?
Thank you, Ellen. I am driving, so I hope you guys can hear it clearly. It was just a question around the detection of the moisture, and curious to know, is this a concern during the shipment process as well, or is it more kind of before it leaves Australia? Like, is there interest to kind of monitor and understand if there's any fluctuations throughout the shipment process?
Not really, because once it's in the box, the container box, it's pretty much set on its way, and the moisture content needs to be right at that stage. I think our primary interest is really when it's between the paddock and the receival site.
And I'm just going to ask you to repeat that, Andrew, because Joanna dropped out and jumped back in again.
Yep. Not so interested in what's happening with the moisture once it's already in the container or the container box and it's on its way. The issue is more about being able to measure and understand the moisture between when it's leaving the paddock and before it arrives or about to enter into a processing facility for longer term storage.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Is there any more questions on this number 5 in under priority 3? No? Okay, so the next one is under priority 1, management practices to maximise gross margins for export hay growers. If anyone has a question on that, would they be able to put their hand up? Is there anyone from the panel that would like to give a bit more context around that?
I'm happy to, Ellen.
Thank you.
This priority, we've deliberately left it very open. We're seeking any ideas, literally, which can make growing export hay more attractive to the growers. The growers today have a lot of competing crops that they can grow, and obviously we would like to have them preference export hay as a first choice, and a big driver behind that is the financial return or gross margin. So we're looking for any ideas that might relate in any way to how we can enhance the gross margin.
Okay, so that's the end of the open call questions. We've got a few other things there, but was there any general questions that people had about this particular open call? Laura, what was your question?
Sorry, thank you. Just wondering about how much detail would you like us to go into, and does that include an indicative budget, etc.?
Absolutely. It needs to have sufficient information. So what we do is a preliminary process, and then the panel reviews that and decides whether or not they'll take those applications to a full research proposal. So it needs to have enough information that they can see what you are offering, and it absolutely needs to have a fairly detailed budget at that point.
And is there a limit to the length of material you'd like to receive?
I might answer this one, Ellen, if that's all right.
Yes.
Yeah. So Laura, you'll see within our K2 system, there is a set out structure for preliminary proposals for you to follow, which will give you an idea of the questions you need to answer. But within K2, there's also a unlimited access to attachments. So you're able then to add in a detailed budget and also any other attachments that you deem necessary to your proposal as well. So we highly recommend utilising that attachment function as well.
Fantastic, thank you.
Any other questions at all? Gavin.
So the successful people, just wondering, because you've got some diverse projects going on underneath the overall program and portfolio.
Yes.
So do you anticipate a coordination or communication process between the different people?
No, they're very distinct, different pieces of work. So yeah, we're not trying to coordinate across all of those 6 areas. We're actually seeking delivery across those, and so that yes, there won't be, there could be some.
They'll be unique jobs, though. So
unique jobs, yes. We're not expecting,
like sort of 6 silos, if you like, that you obviously will have oversight over, but it's not implied to the contractors.
Absolutely, yes, Gavin, you're correct.
Thank you.
No worries. Is there any other questions at all? Matt?
Hey, thanks. I just wanted to know if there was any other research projects being run concurrently that might inform the comms side of things, so that, because obviously if we want to get the latest cutting edge research out there, would we be aware of and have contact with those researchers so as to get that out there to all of the growers, consultants and exporters?
Annie, over to you.
Yeah. So on the sort of comms and extension side of it, the successful proponent for that proposal would work closely with me as the program manager to make sure that we're picking up on those messages from our current projects and extending those to the relevant audience. So yeah, working with me as the program manager and also our panel to make sure that we're getting the right messages out.
Super. Thanks, Annie.
Any other questions at all? No. Next slide, please, Stacey. Okay, so we've got some dot points that I'm actually going to ask when we get to them, both Andrew and James to speak to. So we've been talking internally as a panel, and some key things that we really need you to think about when you're drafting your applications. Next slide, Stacey. So Andrew, over to you on this one.
Thank you very much, Ellen. And what we're really one of the aspects that we're looking for in your project applications is what are the science, facts, and technical knowledge that's going to form the foundation for which you can build your project on. And what we would like you to identify for us are what the key variables in your experimental design are, and how you might be able to control these factors, and whether they can just be managed or whether they have to be mitigated. And then we would hopefully the project is successful in developing new knowledge, and we would like to know what that new knowledge might mean for industry and for other participants in related industries, and what strategies going forward you anticipate to use to record and communicate these, hopefully, new scientific pieces of knowledge and techniques that you might have, and the possibility of any commercialisation of such work. So in essence, it's about what really is the science and technology foundation for your research project, and what you hope to develop along a science and technological perspective. It's not always applicable with some of the extension and communications activities, but equally, you need to have some degree of science and technology in those extension and commercialisation activities, and we'd like to know what you're thinking.
Now, is there any questions related to this slide, which is really around the science and the methodology of some of this work? Any questions at all? Okay, we'll go to the next slide, Stacey, and over to you, James.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. Look, this is really about ensuring that the proposals that the panel gets the privilege of reviewing to ensure that there is a commercial outcome as it relates to the investment to be made. So from that perspective, we are seeking, what type of alignment have you had with industry, or discussions at least with certain members of the supply chain in the export fodder industry to ensure that there is a commercial need, or at least desire, for the research investment to be undertaken. So from that perspective, if there can be that alignment with supply chain partners as it relates to your research idea, then those proposals I would consider would be, I suppose, more favourably viewed than maybe those that have been developed purely in isolation. That aside, always interested, I think it was to Andrew's earlier point, always interested to receive initiatives or concepts or innovations that researchers themselves think could be adopted within the industry. But having said that, we would then test that, or would need to test that, I think, with industry to make an informed call on that research proposal. Also, in terms of trying to seek better views or feedback from researchers in terms of the adoption of that research outcome. So whilst the outcome itself may not be adopted, if we can see some pathway to adoption, maybe through future research, and if researchers can show that pathway, if it doesn't directly involve adoption, certainly what is the pathway of adoption for that research for industry. At the end of the day, we're looking at how can we make a step change within industry as it relates to the invested dollar in R&D. So from that perspective, there, I suppose, some further context on those points. Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you very much, James. Oh, Paul, what's your question?
Sorry, just unmuting there.
Thank you, Paul.
So in the event of a commercializable product and it goes out to market, what's the intellectual property arrangements with this funding?
So the IP is negotiated at the point of contract, and that it depends if there is some background IP, then that can be included in. So basically what AgriFutures does is we always own the IP, and there's an equity split based on who's brought what to the table.
Yep, okay, thanks.
It just makes it, we've tried to do split IP ownership in the past, and it makes it incredibly difficult if you want to commercialise anything.
Yep.
Any other questions at all? No. Do the panel members, does any panel member would like to make any closing comments?
Ellen, Andrew here. We're very open, literally, to any ideas outside of these 4 priority areas and 6 subheadings that we've indicated that might be of interest and value to the export fodder industry.
Thank you, Andrew. And James?
Yeah, thanks, Ellen. Look, suffice to say, I'm very enthused by the interest on this hooker from those researchers that are involved and those that have asked questions and those that are just listening in. So from that perspective, the export fodder industry is very appreciative of your time and effort in putting forward a potential PRP as it relates to the objectives outlined earlier by Ellen. And I can just fully encourage all of you to think outside the square, think about where there can be new technology and innovation adopted within the industry, because at the end of the day, I'd love to push the envelope as it relates to what is beneficial for industry to create that step change.
Thank you so much, James. And Annie?
Yeah, sort of to back onto what Andrew and James were saying, thank you all for coming to the webinar. It's great to see so much interest in our export fodder open call. If you do have any further questions, please email them through to me, and I'll make sure that the correct person answers those questions. Just remembering that they will be shared online on the public forum, just to make sure we're providing an even playing field for all proponents there. Also, as Andrew said, welcome applications that might not necessarily fit into what we've spoken about today, remembering that they do need to clearly align with the 5-year plan for the export fodder program. So I really encourage you all to go and read the 5-year plan. You'll see that, I think it's on page 5. There's a summary outline of the plan. So really encourage you to go and look at that, and also read through the full terms of reference document for the open call, because you will find some good points to focus on in your proposal there as well.
Stacey, can you just go to the next slide? And Laura, you had a question?
Yes, just wondering if this recording could be made available afterwards as well.
Absolutely. So this recording will be made available within, I think it's probably going to be within the FAQ section.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you.
On the website. So yes, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email Annie or Stacey, and then they will get the relevant expertise from across the panel or across the industry to provide the best answer that will support you to write your best possible preliminary proposal. I'm just about to wrap up, but just if there's any final words from, Annie, you've still got your hand up?
No, I just forgot to take it down, Ellen. That was all.
Okay, no worries. If there's any final words from anyone who attended the meeting, so not our panelists, but everyone else, any other questions? Okay. Oh, and yes, and we have a great turnout. Like, it's really wonderful to have so many people interested and engaged on this open call. And obviously, we're hoping to get lots of fabulous proposals that will benefit our export fodder industry. Is there any final words from our panel? Gavin says, thanks for making this opportunity useful. Thank you. Okay. Well, we are finishing up, and thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks, Ellen.
See ya.